Guys, the weather is warming up and this is the perfect time for you to get active outside. I know I will be. And I started using Mando whole body deodorant. With Mando, I feel completely in control of my body odor, no matter the situation, no matter the activity. And my favorite part, I can use this anywhere. Truly, it is full body security. Right now, new customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code and link. Use code Chael after you go to shopmando.com. This is clinically proven to block odor all day and help prevent odor for up to 72 hours. And all Mando products are paraben and baking soda free. I keep the solid deodorant stick and the spray deodorant in my arsenal so that I'm guaranteed to always smell fresh. Now, my go-to scent, Mount Fuji. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That's over 40% off your starter pack when you use code Chael at shopmando.com. Get a solid stick deodorant, a cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, and free shipping. Support the program. Let them know Chael sent you. Islam Makhachev, is he a hypocrite? Did he run from Ilia? Now, there's very few times in the history of this sport where you could ask a question, insert any name that you want, and the answer comes back yes. There's just a lot of circumstance where things, if you chose to make them look a certain way, you could succeed. You could even get a consensus. But when I answer this question, I must understand that perception is reality. Does it look like Islam Makhachev did anything necessary, including leaving a division, including leaving a belt behind? Does it appear that he did all one could do to get out of having to fight Ilia Topuria? Yeah, it looks that way a lot. Now, Ariel had done a piece, and Ariel had a couple of guys on there with him. Very handsome, very nice guys. But you could also tell that these handsome and nice guys didn't have a whole lot to do with MMA. They just had a seat at the table with a guy that happens to be discussing MMA. I mean, they were saying things about Islam, how this is the pound-for-pound GOAT. And the fact that he leaves without cleaning out a division, the fact that he leaves a division that has never been healthier, the fact that he leaves a division with an undefeated world champion in the division, and he leaves that all behind to pursue his real dream. Let me stop you right there, because that's not what happened. He did not have a real dream of going and being champ. In fact, that was stopped. In fact, that's no part of this story. As a matter of fact, Dana White took the belt from him and has already put it up for grabs in a completely different fight. So the opportunity of champ wasn't well received, which means the idea of Ilia leaving the weight class was not well supported. And that was only going to be done on a contingency of somebody not to fight. It was not that Islam wants to fight this guy. It was done on a contingency of Islam does not want to fight that guy. Now, that guy in question ended up being Blahal, and it ended up being for very personal reasons of friendship, of camaraderie. Either way, it was not predicated. Islam's decision to move to 170 was not predicated on fighting a guy, in this case Jack. It was predicated on not facing that guy, Blahal, because it almost wasn't Jack. It was never supposed to be Jack versus Blahal from Jump Street. It was supposed to be Rachmanov. Just insert Rachmanov. But we were real quiet when it was Rachmanov, weren't we? When Rachmanov came out, it was believed by people, including myself, that Kamaru Usman would get a good look at that fight, that Ian Gary would get a real good look at that fight, in which cases there was still a real interest. And it settled down and ended up being Jack, who wasn't the first choice, but he wasn't the second or the third choice either. And then all of a sudden, that's my dream. That's my goal. I must defeat Jack. That story began to get told like the little engine that could, but it does not change anything about Ilia Topuria took those exact same risks, except he took them to get a fight, not to avoid one. Ilia Topuria did the one thing the UFC hates, which is when you leave their belt behind. They hate that. Evidence that they hate that doesn't have to be the courtroom of BJ Penn versus Dana White almost 2 decades ago. Evidence could be right now, right this moment, that Islam, the fair-chaired fair-haired child did it, and they took his belt away. They hate it. And Islam did it anyway, and Islam doesn't want to beat the scale. And that's the thing that Ariel's guys aren't understanding. Even the great Dre Riggs, one of the great writers in the sport, Dre Riggs, talked about we need to stop this epidemic of fighters thinking champ and champ and thinking that this is the new great thing. Lining their mantles with hardware. We got to get this out of their mindset. It's not part of their mindset. Islam is not interested in being a champion here and a champion here and a champion here or any of those things. That's in your mislead little mind. He doesn't want to weigh 155 pounds anymore. That's the truth. I just laid out a very compelling case for why he ran from Ilia Topuria. The problem is, it's not true. It's going to appear to be true in a number of months as time goes by. If you look back and stare at the story, it's going to appear to be exactly what happened. It's not. Islam simply, but equally as not true, is that Islam is trying to go and get a belt in a different division and collect the hardware for the mantle. That's the misunderstanding. It's about weight. The worst part of this sport is cutting weight. And so many of these guys, for an opportunity, will cut too much weight too young. He's 25 years old. He wants to be a 185-pounder. Everybody tells him he'll be a great 85-pounder. And there's an opportunity that opened up, and it's in 3 weeks. But it's at 170. Can you pull the weight off, kid? You're only 22. You got young legs. Can you do it for a dream? Yes, but now you're a 170-pounder forever. And that's what the problem is, and that's what the message is. And I understand that nobody wants to see Islam versus Jack. I get that. Let them bring in the bells and the whistles, and that might change. But those same nobodies want to see Islam versus Ilia Topuria. Let them bring in the bells and whistles, and that can change. But neither one of those fights are done. Neither one of those fights from a promotional standpoint have even begun. But if you really are one of those people like Drake Riggs and you think this is a problem, or you're like Ariel's guys where they'll move up in the harder competition, you're just wrong. The only reason you didn't get Khabib to 30-0 is you wanted to do it at 155 pounds. Khabib and everyone would have stuck around. George St. Pierre, right on down the list. All the guys you've ever seen retire would have done one more if you would have let them go up in weight.